first question it's one that we wanted to respond to personally, actually, and I did respond to it via email personally, is reasons you might have a tax bill.
Yes. So some people by now, we're late in July now, so will have started receiving tax refunds. And we talked about in our episode of 3 things to do with your tax refunds, like different options. But some people will be in a different boat. And as we mentioned, we were a bit of sort of joking about it, but might have to pay a tax bill. And I think it's important that we just elaborate. There's a lot of reasons why people have to pay tax bills, and everyone's financial situation is different. So I think it's just important to point out some of the reasons people have tax bills.
Because the question was like, well, why do you guys have tax bills? Are you selling your shares and you're telling everyone to invest for the long term? Is there a disconnect between the two? Which is a fair question.
Yeah.
So I can tell you for sure, my tax bill has absolutely nothing to do with shares. It's actually from another job. It's like a side hustle that I have. And that's basically how I got it. So Kate, what are some of the other reasons you would have a tax bill rather than a tax refund?
Yeah, so one of the biggest reasons the ATO actually points out on the website is people that have multiple jobs, and what happens is sometimes people claim the tax-free threshold from multiple jobs, and therefore not enough tax is being withheld, and so they get to the end of the financial year and they have to pay the difference of what they actually owe versus what they paid during the year. So ticking the right boxes on your tax declaration form is important. Another reason that's happened to a friend is they didn't tick the box that they had a HECS help debt, and so their employer didn't withhold more money to pay for their contributions to their HECS debt. So that's also one reason why you might have money owing at tax time. If you've got a bonus during the year, if you've got some freelance income, if you've been side hustling and doing some Uber driving on the weekends on top of your main job.
Whatever.
Yep. If you've had some dividends or distributions, which is something that I and many other of our listeners have probably received during the year. There might have been a merger or a takeover. You might have been forcibly paid out money and your shares have been sold. Even if you sold things like shares or investment properties, you might have sold crypto during the year, you may have made capital gains. And so there's heaps of reasons, and this is not an exhaustive list, that you might have a tax bill.
Basically, the only reason you don't end up with a tax bill is if you are on PAYG. So if you work for an employer and they hold tax for you at exactly the right rate, or if you are a subcontractor but the person that you contract to still is liable, because some people can have an ABN, like tradies can have an ABN and invoice a builder, but because they do the predominant amount of their work through that builder, the builder is still liable to pay them super and whatever. They may not necessarily be required to withhold tax, but there are certain arrangements where that might be the case. And so long as they're paying for you, you should get a refund, because you're going to take deductions away from that income and then you're going to get a refund. But for people like myself, Kate, that do some consulting work on the side, I'm not withholding tax from that throughout the year, even though I should be. And so that income is going to be taxed at June 30th, and that's why I pay tax.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty simple
So lots of reasons. We're still long-term investors.
Still long-term investing.
The life of managing your money and having different income sources does lead to having tax bills.